Pittsburgh Steelers fans, what is up? Oh my gosh. Remember last week? Remember what happened last week? Remember some of the discussions we had last week on the show, Tony? Defeo was not here. Shannon White was here, and we're going to bring up all that stuff. But first, maybe we should tell you who we are. My name is Bryan Anthony Davis, the podcast producer here at BehindTheSteelCurtain.com. Two outstanding writers and podcasters, Shannon White and Tony Defeo, are with me today, boys. This is the hangover where you celebrate, man. This is the hangover that when you're at the bar, whether you drink or not, but especially if you're drinking, you're like, having another, you're celebrating, you're like, I can't believe this worked out this way. I cannot believe that they made the playoffs. I can't believe that the planets aligned. And if you watch this show or listen to this show all season long, especially after the 1-3 start, this is bad pat your back time. And I don't do this very often, but I'm going to do it. And you guys, you can say I'm wrong, or you could back me up here. Did I not say all season long, there's a reason to keep watching? If the planets align, the Steelers will make the playoffs. Did the planets align?
Yes, they definitely aligned. I think so. They all did.
And so, what else did I say last week? You weren't here, Tony, but what have I been saying the entire time, Shannon? Jacksonville versus Indianapolis. Jacksonville has no business winning that game, but the last 6 contests, and now 7, where Indianapolis is on the road, and the reason I said it that way every single time on every single show was why? Because Indianapolis has lost once in England to Jacksonville when they were the road team, and 5 other times in Jacksonville, and now it's 6. And that team in Duval made them look silly. So I am going to celebrate that. You know what? I'm not going to stop there. You know what else I'm going to celebrate? Bold and bizarre predictions. Also, the staff members of BTSC pick the score. What was my score? Steelers 16, Ravens 13. So yes. I'm not going to say nobody believed, but I'm just stupid enough and crazy enough to believe that the planets will align. And they did. And it's amazing. So I'm loving it. Hats off to Sean Manahan. Here we go, Steelers. Here we go. He was the first one in. And these comments are going to be fun today. And now, let's go over this one real quick. I'm going to say this. Well, let's do this. Let's get some super chats in here. Tyler W., that's our buddy. This season made me love Tomlin again. What a coaching job with all the rookies. Well, then you're going to love my shirt. I'm wearing green and gold. Am I wearing Green Bay Packers, Shannon?
No.
Tony, am I wearing Forest Hills Rangers from Johnstown, PA?
I would probably say no.
I am wearing College of William and Mary right there. Mike Tomlin's alma mater. So there we go. Let's see. Let's go ahead and it's really nice that not everybody can see all the comments. If you're on Facebook, you can see comments on only Facebook comments. On YouTube, you can only see YouTube comments. Let's go ahead and block our good buddy who we've never met before, John. He is completely blocked for not because he said go Chiefs, because of a very inappropriate remark towards Ben Roethlisberger. No room for that here. I got to tell you what. The Steelers got it done. Is it pretty? No. Nope. It's not pretty. It's not going to be. There are people that said all along, if they make the playoffs, they didn't say if they make the playoffs. Weeks ago, there were people saying this team does not deserve to make the playoffs. They were saying that back in week 5. This team does not deserve to make the playoffs. They made the playoffs. Here's the thing. I love that comment, this team doesn't deserve to make the playoffs. Because if you're fans of the Indianapolis Colts, did the Indianapolis Colts deserve to make the playoffs? Did the Ravens deserve to make the playoffs? Did the Chargers deserve to make the playoffs? We got a lot to talk about. We have got tons to talk about, and it's all good because no matter what happens next Sunday night, no matter what happens, the Steelers right now are still alive, and we've got something to talk about. But I'm going to bring up something real quick. And I don't know, some of my history is a little bit off and a little bit wrong. I might not have the timeline completely right. But Shannon White, as an American sports fan, what is the greatest moment for all American sports fans in sports history? I'm putting you on the spot. I know I am.
The greatest for everybody.
For everybody. If you're an American sports fan.
The U.S. hockey team winning at the gold.
Tony, was that your answer?
Yeah.
February?
He didn't say it in the form of a question.
1980. I didn't make him do that. Now let's see. I'll let Tony. You have some time here. Why am I bringing up the USA hockey team from 1980, Tony?
Well, it would have to be because of the Jaguars' improbable win over the Colts, right? I mean, or maybe everything that happened yesterday was so improbable.
Nope.
Steelers.
Nope.
Okay.
That's not what I'm doing here. What happened? Maybe this is where the timeline gets a little sketchy. What happened in Madison Square Garden about 10 days before the Olympics started? Does anybody know this answer? And I'm not looking at the live chat right now, so if you know it, I apologize.
I do not know.
An exhibition game, the Russians and the USA hockey team, and I believe, if I'm not mistaken, the final score was 10-1. They blew.
I like where your head's at. I love it.
They had no business being on the ice with this team. And what happened? And also this. What color jerseys are worn by the Soviet hockey team in 1980?
Maroon,
not the same as they do now.
Yellow.
Red and gold.
Yeah.
Red and yellow, red and gold. They look like the Kansas City Chiefs on skates. That's what I'm saying to you. They had red helmets. They had red and gold jerseys. USA had white. They were not supposed to be in this game. And if I'm not seeing, I'm sure somebody, they like to do this when I'm going off my rants. They like to say, preach, Bad. Bad's preaching. Bad is preaching. And you know why Bad's preaching? Because 10-1, no business. Guess what? In the semifinals, not the finals, a lot of people don't realize that they had to play Sweden in the finals. And if I mixed up the Swedes with Finland, if I'm like the guy in Die Hard, it's like Helsinki, Finland, or like Sweden. Come on, Harvey. You know what I'm talking about with Die Hard. If you don't, watch it. Here's what I'm saying. There's a chance. We quoted Jim Carrey all last week. We did it. So you say there's a chance. Mm-hmm. Yes, Lloyd Christmas was right. There's a chance. If this is Dumb and Dumber, Lloyd Christmas is going all night with Mary Swanson. You know why? Because there's a chance. Jacksonville was not supposed to beat Indianapolis. Indianapolis was supposed to crush this team. No one expects two rivals to tie. That's a given. And the Steelers aren't going to go into Baltimore and beat the Ravens in Baltimore. The Steelers suck. Guess what? All you want to say and all you want to do, if you're a hater, and that's fine, the Steelers got there. They didn't get there pretty. You know my 2 a.m. stories. They're not pretty, but I'm high-fiving somebody the next day. Back in 1992, if that's the thing. 1989, Tony, what happened on Christmas Eve?
One of my favorite games ever. We chronicled it last year in the retro show. The Steelers upset the Oilers in the House of Pain in overtime. It was great. Gary Anderson's 50-yard field goal. It was. I still cherish that to this day, 30 some years later.
You are partially right. That was New Year's Eve. On Christmas Eve.
I'm sorry.
On Christmas Eve, Indianapolis Colts had to lose to a subpar New Orleans team. Did it happen, Shannon?
Yes.
The Raiders were involved too. They had to lose to a very bad New York Giants team. Did it happen, Tony?
Oh, it absolutely did.
The Bengals on Christmas night, Monday Night Football, had to lose to the Minnesota Vikings. It happened. Everything fell into place. A 9-7 team that did not deserve to be in the playoffs made it to the playoffs, won in the wild card game, and if it wasn't for a ball going off the crossbar or bouncing off the upright and going in, guess what? The Steelers are in the AFC Championship game against the Browns. And you know what everybody would have been saying? It doesn't matter if they make the Super Bowl. San Francisco 49ers would have destroyed them. Possibly. They blew out the Broncos, but it doesn't matter. When a team believes and a team's together, great things happen. Do you believe in miracles? Yes. And you know what? You know who said that quote? Is the same man that is going to be calling their game Sunday night. Al Michaels. Gentlemen, it could happen.
You've convinced me.
It could happen. It might not. The odds are against them. What are they, 14.5 underdogs, Shannon?
I say 15. I don't know. It's moving.
I think they're 14.5 in what I saw, but if they've moved, they've moved. That's Tony. What was your knee-jerk reaction to all of this? It could be your knee-jerk reaction could be after.
I'm pinching myself.
After the game in Vegas. I don't care where your knee-jerk reactions are. Shannon, you're going to be next. Tony, what's your knee-jerk reaction to all of this?
I just can't believe it. I mean, I was one of the naysayers that I was a big, huge naysayer after that first Chiefs game, and they the way they played, and coming off the Bengals game a couple weeks earlier, and trailing the Vikings 29-0. I didn't think this team was even going to win its last two games to make the playoffs, or to even put itself in a position. And then even after beating the Browns last week, I thought, well, there's no way the Jaguars are going to win. And even if they do, the Steelers will probably lose in Baltimore like they did 2 years ago. I just had that, feeling it was going to go down like that. But the way everything came together, it was amazing. And then I kind of had the opposite reaction to the whole tie, to the near tie. I thought that was a sure thing that they were going to, after they beat the Ravens and the Jaguars lost, I thought, well, they're in the playoffs. I counted my chickens before they hatched. And then last night, almost, that would have been one of the most heartbreaking things I think any Steeler fan could have experienced. But the way everything happened, it was my favorite regular season finale since that 89 campaign. That was my knee-jerk reaction. I can't believe they're in the playoffs. I just can't believe it.
And it feels pretty freaking good today.
Yeah.
Now, I'm going to say this. We're not going to elaborate, but you were having a terrible day yesterday in your personal life. And
I was.
And I'm sorry. I'm sure you don't mind me bringing this up. We're not elaborating, but that probably made things better, right?
It was a nice a nice little therapy session to find that out, because I wasn't expecting it. I mean, I was expecting maybe one of those good things to happen, but not all of them. Because I remember 2019, 2018, 2013. The only time it happened was 2015, and that seemed like the most probable thing to go in their favor. Rex Ryan beating his old team, the Jets, and the Jets being the Jets. I figured they'd find a way to blow it, and they did. So I wasn't expecting it to happen. So that made my day. I mean, it didn't get any better until late last night, but it was definitely something that kept me going the rest of the day.
And it gives you perspective that, hey, tomorrow's a new day and life can go better, right?
Yeah, exactly. Absolutely.
Shannon White, let me ask you this question. We were on the Slack channel last night. Everybody watching this game, and everybody in the Slack channel, if anybody doesn't know, it's our own private, personal BTSC chat room. And everybody was freaking out during that Chargers and Raiders game because everybody's like, man, I got to go change articles that I've already written thinking that the Steelers were going to the playoffs. And it looked like it wasn't going to happen. What was the most poignant part of your day during the whole thing? Was it the Colts losing to Jacksonville, the Steelers on a 4th and 8 converting, or that game that almost ended in a tie?
My thing was I thought that the Steelers could beat the Ravens. And so the big thing was, could Jacksonville beat the Colts? And I know that kind of like the Raiders have the Steelers number, especially at home. We know that Jacksonville has the Colts number in Jacksonville. But I just couldn't imagine that happening, as good as the Colts have been recently and how bad Jacksonville's been this season. So I had complete faith that Ben could will this team to victory, which he was able to do in the second half in overtime. By that point, we already knew that Jacksonville was going to beat the Colts. And I couldn't believe it. You know, I was just so excited. And when the game ended, everybody started talking about, well, the only way the Steelers don't make the playoffs now is if there's a tie. Well, was there one tie this year? And it was Steelers Detroit. I mean, they're very rare. I think there's been 5 in the last so many years. But then that game got started last night. And then early in that third quarter, Collinsworth started talking about it. And he talked about it the whole rest of the game. And there was no doubt what he was rooting for. He was giddy with excitement. He was giggling on air.
I'm going to disagree with you. I'm going to disagree with you on
that. That's how I feel about it. To me, he wanted a tie. And he was rooting for a tie. And then the closer it was getting into overtime, I don't believe in the conspiracy theory as a lot of people do. But scripted, it almost looked scripted because, they stopped them on 4th down. Oh, wait a second, there's a flag. Oh, they stopped them on 4th down again. Oh, wait a second, there's another flag. It was like, let's keep this thing going. You say, well, why would you want to do that? I want to see the ratings. Because I guarantee you that was monster ratings last night. Because Steelers Nation is vast. And the rest of the people hate Steelers Nation. So if you watch the ESPN shows today, the talk shows, they were all so disappointed that the Raiders and Chargers didn't play that better and ended in a tie. Everybody was upset. Said, it would have been so great to have a tie there and both them teams make it. It doesn't matter that, you play to win the game. Everybody wanted to see a tie there and the Steelers get knocked out of the playoffs. Because if you ain't us, you hate us. And that's how it is. And to me, that was they made it come down to the last second because nobody turned that game off last night and went on to bed feeling comfortable what was going to happen. And if maybe if the Chargers hadn't called that timeout, it would have ended in a tie. So you at least got to give both teams credit for trying to continue to compete when they didn't have to.
I agree with you on most of that. There's one glaring thing. You've already heard me try to interrupt you. There's one thing I disagree with, and I'll get to that in a second. What I agree on is for nationally televised games, this has a lot to do with Thursday nights, Sunday nights, and Monday nights. I always get a tweet or a message saying, mostly a Yahoo Sports message is what I get. And that Yahoo Sports message is this. Wow, Chiefs Ravens heating up. Go check it out on Fox or what have you. And last night we got a same one. Raiders are winning by 15. Raiders Chargers heating up. Make sure you don't miss this. And everyone's running to watch it. Yes. And I wonder a lot of those times especially in the nationally televised games, I wonder if it's like, look, if a team's losing, look out for if it seems like even if it seems ticky-tack and that team's losing, go ahead, keep them in. I wouldn't be surprised if Vince McMahon is hanging out there. Seriously. I agree with you, Shannon. I don't want to be Mr. Conspiracy Theory. They need those games to be tight and they need the ratings. Mm-hmm. Now, where I'm going to disagree with you, and I can't remember Tony's stance on this. I think Tony is like me and likes Chris Collinsworth. And we're definitely in the minority there.
Oh, yeah.
But where I'm going to disagree with you is, one, it's for ratings. And I don't really feel like he was gloating, because I watch a lot of games done by Collinsworth, and I don't think he's picking on the Steelers. I think there's some times that it seems like he's pulling for the Steelers too. We get preconceived notions because he's a Bengal. We're going to think that he hates them. I tell you what, you put a Phil Simms called game next to and I know he's in the studio now, but you put a Phil Simms game next to a game with Chris Collinsworth, Phil Simms is worse. And he didn't even play in the division. Phil Simms hates the Steelers. Mike Mayock hated the Steelers because they cut him. There are so many situations. I don't have a problem with Collinsworth. I really don't. I enjoy watching him. I got in a fight on Twitter on the whole Collinsworth thing too. I just jumped in, or maybe it was a Facebook post, but I don't think Collinsworth was. I loved when Collinsworth was doing it. It's like, they're freaking out in Pittsburgh right now.
Yeah.
Or if you're in Pittsburgh, he did say something a lot of people are forgetting about. And Shane, I'm not calling you out. I promise. You and I are buddies. But one thing that a lot of people that are complaining about Collinsworth today, there's a couple of times. One time when the Raiders scored again, I'm like, oh, they're feeling better in Pittsburgh about that. They're loving that in Pittsburgh when the Raiders scored. You know what I mean? So I think that's one of those that a lot of people hate Collinsworth so much. People watch Collinsworth in the Olympics and the Steelers aren't there, and they're like, I hate this guy. And I actually really like him. But I could be wrong, but I look at some of that stuff and I'm thinking, okay, we just have that notion that he does hate Pittsburgh, and I think he calls it like it is. Tony and I have, Shane, I want to share this with you. Tony and I have done the retro show together for a long time. And one of our favorites is doing Monday night games with Howard Cosell. I don't know where you were on Howard Cosell. Were you a Cosell guy?
I did not mind Cosell. Cosell told the truth. He really wasn't biased. He told the truth. He was a jerk towards both teams. So I had no problem with him.
It kind of seemed like, Tony, would you agree? It kind of seemed like Cosell liked the Steelers. It seemed like Cosell was biased towards the Steelers.
He definitely had. You could tell he had respect for them, and he was the host of their 50th year anniversary thing back in '82. So maybe he did like the Steelers, but he definitely was abrasive.
Here's the thing about it. Tony and I are watching these games over the summer, and we're like, oh my gosh. He's like, that was the worst trade ever to trade for that man. He is terrible.
Yeah.
I mean, he's great. I mean, he was ripping because like Cosell's thing was tell it like it is. My gosh. And he didn't care. I had a gym teacher that may he rest in peace, but the gym teacher was great. He's like, I'm not prejudiced. I hate everybody. And that's what he would say. He's actually a funny guy and a nice guy.
And these guys today, these are nothing like Cosell as far as the animosity or like the brutality, like their brutal honesty on the air. They're more PR for the league than anything.
You know why I hate John Gruden on the mic so much?
Why is that?
Because he is afraid to rip on anybody. Because he might be coaching them again. Right. Or he might be rubbing elbows at an NFL mixer with them. He doesn't want to make these guys mad. That's why I love Cosell so much. I think Collinsworth does kind of tell it like it is and doesn't care. That's why I like the guy. And I'm not looking in the comments. I will. I'm sure a lot of people disagree with me, and I'm cool with that. But all I'm saying is it was so smart to keep bringing up the Steelers. And you know what? When he said the Steelers are freaking out, or the Steeler fans are freaking out right now, were we? Yes.
Twitter was ablaze.
Let me ask you this, Shannon. I'm going to start with you. Is it egregious? I think Big Bro Sco brought this up. Is it egregious to have a game that could end in a tie that would benefit both teams on the last game of the day?
I don't think there should be a tie in football. I think they should use collegiate rules, whatever, maybe modify them for the NFL, but you don't play for 2.5, 3 hours, whatever, and then walk away with a tie. There's absolutely no reason when they can adopt the rules, collegiate rules, and that way you don't have to worry about that. But what makes it look so scripted is they moved the game to Sunday night for the national primetime audience, and the only way, if things had felt like they did, they needed a tie in that situation, and for it to just continue to build, like you couldn't even script some of that stuff. The last 2 field goals prior to the game-winning field goal just got inside the crossbar. I think one even grazed it a little bit. I mean, it was like, every other Steeler game this year, when they've actually been able to pull out a victory, even watching a game that didn't involve the Steelers, we couldn't sit there and be comfortable and relax and say, oh, okay, this game's over at halftime. Everything was coming down to, an inch. There was tons of reviews in that game. It was a great game. It was very entertaining. But again, Collinsworth's focus was on, if this is a tie, Steeler fans hiding under the blankets, wonder what Big Ben's thinking. Big Ben was thinking the same thing I was. Shut up. And I'm keeping it PG. I mean, just let him play the game and you shut up. They got Tony Romo. Tony Romo, his first year, he was excellent. Predicting the next play. I mean, he was just, and then all of a sudden he become, he's got his favorites. And then he'll, Patrick Mahomes can throw the exact same pass right to the other team and it get dropped and he's like, boy, I tell you, that just because that velocity on that ball, that guy didn't intercept it. Ben throws the same pass and he's like, Ben didn't read that play very well. I mean, it's obvious. I mean, that's what we're talking about. Harry Cosell, John Madden. These guys did not have that favoritism. And it's almost like they're a sellout. Once Tony Romo starts getting them commercials and all this other stuff, then they don't call the game the same anymore. And it's human nature. We all have favorites. But he don't hide his.
Now, I will say this about the late John Madden. We lost him a couple weeks ago. Mm-hmm. He hated the Steelers, but you did not know it. And that's the thing. We're going to agree to disagree on it. I thought he was painting a good picture. We could, like I said, Shannon, I will say this. If more people agree with me than you, I will be shocked. Because I think that I will be in the minority here because most people agree with you. And I have no problem with that. I don't mind being the wrong guy. But from this vantage point, it's like, hey, you watch Cobra Kai right now. You either love Daniel or you love Johnny LaRusso or you love John Kreese. And you can justify it. You could bring up so many ways to justify every other angle. So I have no problem with that. Let me go ahead and I want to address something else that Shannon said. Let me bring up Monster 19 here. Monster 19, I haven't brought him up yet, but he's one of my absolute favorites because he's the happiest looking man on his avatar. He's just happy. I mean, this guy, I bet you Monster 19 walks into a room and it lights up because he's like, hey guys, and everyone's like, Monster! Because he's a happy dude. I want to hang out with Monster 19. He looks fun. Change the show's name to the Steelers Bender because this party ain't stopping, baby. Here we go. With a smile like that, he's bringing the party. Man, I love that guy. Thanks for the $4.99, Monster. I appreciate it. So, Tony, I'm going to ask you. I kind of agreed with Shannon on this part that the league wants things close at the end. And Is there a fix? Probably not. Not towards a single team. It's if it's anything, and I will say this, if there's any kind of chicanery in the NFL, it doesn't matter. There's no favoritism. The only favoritism is to the team that's coming back to make it tight and make it rain with advertising dollars. Do you agree with that, Tony?
Oh yeah, I've always thought that. I think that the officials can be influenced by the crowd. I think they can be influenced by the higher ups. And last night obviously the Chargers were on the road, so maybe there wasn't much influence there. But you could tell that, like Shannon said earlier, every time there was a close play that looked like the Raiders were going to win, they called a penalty, and it didn't help that Justin Herbert is an extremely talented quarterback who was throwing dimes those last two drives, and everything he threw was right on the money. I agree. There's definitely, maybe not consciously, but subconsciously, they're definitely influenced. As far as the game being, what the NFL did with that scenario, I think they screwed up. I mean, you never want to put two teams in position to where if the game is tied, they both make the playoffs, and that's the last game of the year. I think if anything, maybe you put the Colts game on at night, or you put the Steelers game on at night. If the Steelers Ravens game, they're both. If there's a win and you're in scenario, what great drama in theater, and it was great drama in theater with the Chargers and the Raiders. But I mean, you're kind of screwing with the integrity of the game if they're if they both kind of nod at each other and say, we're just gonna play out the string here in overtime and go for a tie. And you really couldn't blame either team if that's how they did it, because you play to win the game, but it's your job as a head coach and a football player to make the playoffs. I mean, that's why they pay you the big bucks, and it would have been very tempting to if I'm the Raiders or the Chargers to do whatever I could to make sure that game I didn't lose that game. I mean, you try to win it, but you very low risk moves to make sure you don't lose the game.
Let me bring this up, John. Wait, hold up. Why was I blocked? You were not blocked.
You wouldn't be able to say that.
Yes, somebody, and that was a Facebook user as well. So you're okay. I know it took me a long time to answer it because I just saw this now. You're okay. The other comment was pretty egregious. So, and John's probably a common name, so I do apologize. I just didn't want to read the last name, and the other person I blocked had a last name on there. So, so John, you were okay, and if you were, you wouldn't be able to come back if you were blocked. So trust me, you're good. Somebody said, "Hey, what about the Chiefs game? Why aren't you talking about the Chiefs game?" We will. We'll talk about the Chiefs game. That's more of for the other shows. This is the Hangover, so we're going to talk more about everything that happened. We've already talked about.
We're still on that bender.
We already. Yeah, man, I'm fired up. So, and I'm feeling awesome. I mean, things tasted better today because it's forbidden fruit we're eating.
Yes.
Steelers don't deserve to be in the playoffs. Mike Tomlin had the greatest quote yesterday. And somebody put it up on the board, and I think might have been Mike that brought it up. But the quote was, "Hey, you guys have counted us out. You guys have counted us out since we were 1-3. That's it. You can't count teams. I mean, my gosh, the Colts were in it. The Colts, all they had to do was win. They were 1-5, I think, at one point. The Dolphins almost made it. They had some chances. They were like 1-7. They were not very long ago. They were the 16th ranked team of all 16 teams. So all I have to say here is that the planets aligned, and we've seen, as Steelers fans, we've seen the planets alive. We saw the planets align in 2013 only for the Chiefs. Andy Reid, I hate Andy Reid because of the crap he pulls. in the playoffs, which I'm not saying it wasn't, that it isn't smart football, but I just hate that guy. And then Andy Reid and then Ryan Suckup misses the kick.
Ugh.
And the Steelers, who needed 3 teams to lose, they almost got there on the last day. And they would have made some noise in the playoffs because they were coming. They started out 2013 0-4. 0-4. And I think at the midway point, they were 2-6. And they got hot. They just got very hot. And they would have been dangerous in the playoffs. And that's right when they were talking about having 7 teams in. And if there were 7 teams back then, there would be. So, gentlemen, let's before we get on to the Chiefs game, let's talk about the idea of a tie. And let's talk about that game. Look, that's the Raiders and Chargers. They should be fierce division rivals. Now, it's very easy for me to say that this wouldn't happen, but do you think Mike Tomlin and John Harbaugh would have let that end in a tie? For them both to go in? I'll start with you, Shannon.
Not a chance. Harbaugh shows that twice he lost games because he went for 2-point conversions instead of kicking the extra point and he goes for the win. And that's his MO. And Tomlin is the same. He wants to earn it. He wants to get there. I'm sure yesterday Tomlin wishes that they controlled their own destiny and they wasn't in that situation. Which I don't think they would have been if Ben hadn't got COVID and missed the Detroit game. But that's neither here nor there. But, they had 9 victories this year, and 7 of them were game-winning drives by Ben Roethlisberger. So when I look back on this season, regardless of what happens in the playoffs, I do believe it'll be Ben's last year, and he was as clutch as ever this season. And that's why you can't look at anything on paper and say that's why this team won 9 games. They've had an excellent pass rush, and they've had that for 5 years in a row. And they have Defensive Player of the Year in TJ Watt. And, there's some talented players there. But when it comes to, again, Najee Harris is another. But when it comes to the reason why they was able to pull them victories out in the end so often, it's because of Ben Roethlisberger. So I'd love to see him do it again against the Chiefs.
Yeah.
Tony?
As far as a tie, I mean, I don't think they're both riverboat gamblers as coaches. They're both aggressive, and despite of what you might think of Tomlin, they both have a great sense of situational football, and that's where their strengths lie. I think as far as head coaches, obviously keeping their teams together, that's their biggest strength, managing men, but also in key moments making aggressive decisions and intuitive decisions. But at the same time, it was such an unprecedented thing. I don't think I can never remember a scenario like that where if a game ended in a tie, both teams would have made the playoffs, and if one team wins, the other team's out. It's such a weird thing. But could the Raiders are going to have the bragging rights over the Chargers all off season, and obviously whoever would have had the upper hand in Steelers Ravens game in that kind of scenario, they would have the upper hand, or they would have the bragging rights. So they would probably go for the win.
Absolutely. I mean, I could not, man, do you want to be, I know the whole point is to make the playoffs, and that's what they were doing. And I know that they were being very careful by running the ball, but they still could fall back on, we don't have to win here. We could just run out the clock. And that's just not what I want in football. And if Jacobs doesn't get there, if he doesn't get that first down, they're not throwing it. They're not going to, I mean, they're just going to let it roll over on downs. And so all I'm going to say is that's not how you want to go in. Do you think there's a lot of people that are very harsh with Mike Tomlin? And I'm not saying I'm almost a Tomlin apologist at times. Sometimes I'll say, I'll be fair. But what I'm saying is, do you think, and Mike Tomlin doesn't care, but I didn't want to read all the quotes on how, if it was the Steelers in that situation, they settled for a tie, how they got in because they settled for a tie. I don't want to read that. Jerry Cherryband says Raiders' last drive was to win. I think it all changed with the timeout.
Yep.
And now
That
some
changed
people
everything.
are saying it. I mean, that's like, and I'm going to bring up, and I brought it up on the Slack channel, and no one commented on it. And I was really sad about this. It reminded me of one of the great movies. And if you're a sports fan, you love this movie. Kevin Costner, Bull Durham. I gave you a gift and you show up my picture. Run, dummy. That's what I thought. That's what I thought about. And that's what I felt like the Ravens. Like, we're giving you a gift and you're calling timeout right here. All right. All bets are off. We're going for it. And that's what I felt. Is that kind of what you felt, guys?
Yeah, I mean, it's like when a team is down by, like, 4 touchdowns and they're still trying to play, they're still playing hard. Well, if you're the other team, you're going to still keep trying to do your thing. Once the Raiders found out that the Chargers were doing everything they could to stop them from trying to win, well, they thought, well, we better try to win then. And I think that changed their strategy.
Okay, I want to bring up Kevin James here. And I know Kevin James in real life. I think he is a Jets fan, but so I don't think it's that one. But let me bring up Kevin here, and the Kevin James is BTSC's Kevin James here. I don't care about Adam Sandler's buddy. This guy's the real Kevin James because he's a Steeler fan. We can definitely beat the Chiefs, but nobody wants to say it. Absolutely. I will not disagree with you there. Yeah. Any given Sunday. I talked about the Olympic hockey team. Let's talk about another game. November 28th, 2005. Colts 28. Steelers 3. Monday Night Football. They destroyed that team. They absolutely destroyed the Steelers. Destroyed Ike Taylor. I mean, it was sad what happened in that game. And then we get to January 15th. I believe it was the 15th.
It was.
I always get that mixed up. 14th, 15th. I think it's the 15th of 2006. Not that, about less than, what would you say, 6 weeks later, maybe? Or less than 2 months later? Steelers shocked the world. That is the game. Ooh. Somebody in the live chat said, hey, they need to get the playbook. They need to get the playbook from that. I don't know if you know this. I talk about this stuff all the time. I had the pleasure of, after the Super Bowl, a couple months after the Super Bowl in 2006, getting a chance to drive Verona Haynes to picking him up at the airport and taking him to Cumberland, Maryland for an autograph signing. And we talked about everything under the sun, and I hardly wanted to ask about football. I said, look, I don't want to bombard you with stuff on football. I don't want to be Chris Farley saying, hey, remember Paul McCartney when you were in the Beatles? That was cool. I mean, because my friends thought I was going to do that. I mean, I wanted to respect this guy. He's like, man, I love talking about it. I'm like, all right, I have one question for you. What did you know? What did the coaching staff know going into that game on defense? And he said to me, he's like, we knew that if we changed the look right before 5 seconds before Peyton Manning snapped the ball on defense, that we could confuse him and throw him off. And Peyton Manning is one of the most brilliant minds that ever to play quarterback. Probably one of the most intelligent quarterbacks to ever play the game. And I'd probably fight you on that. If you had to say who's more of an intelligent quarterback, Peyton Manning, Terry Bradshaw, or Ben Roethlisberger, I would say Peyton Manning every day of the week.
Absolutely.
Not saying that these guys aren't intelligent. Also, I'm saying that this guy is intelligent. But they confused him that entire game. And it was, I mean, and that's exactly what they did. And when he told me that, and this is a running back telling me this, that this is what the defense knew to do. So, man, I'm telling you right now, you get Dick LeBeau, you get Bill Cowher, send him to Kansas City, let him just stand on the sidelines. You know, I mean, just let him stand there. And Coach Cowher and Coach T are friends. You know, I mean, they respect each other. Man, I would love that. That's out of a me. That's probably out of a movie right there. But man, this game coming up. We talked about the Russian game with the U.S. hockey team. We talked about the Colts game. Would you guys agree that the team that gets blown out in the regular season when they're playing said team in the playoffs almost does better every single time? Tony, I'll start with you.
Yeah, I mean, because you know, you obviously have time to adjust to what they did to you the first game, and if you're not finding ways to adjust to what they did to you, you're not doing your job as a coach, and you're not preparing yourself as a player. So, yeah, you know, it's been what 2 weeks since that game, and it'll be 3 weeks by the time they play. So, you know, they're going to have a pretty good idea what the Chiefs do, and you know, they have Shannon said they have obviously a great pass rush. That's the strength of their team. So that's what's going to have to come through against the Chiefs. I mean, T.J. Watt wasn't himself the first time they played. He's their best player. He's back on track. You know, he's going to have to be the guy that kind of turns the tide from what we saw in the 36-10 game a couple weeks ago.
Shannon, thoughts?
Yeah, I said you never know the playoffs if the Steelers could get another shot at the Bengals. And my son was like, they done beat the pants off of them twice. Why would we want to play them a third time? I said, it's hard to beat a team 3 times in the same season. Because that's why the Steelers have a chance against the Chiefs. Because, you know, especially these young guys, now they know what to expect. They've played the Chiefs, and they know where they matched up and where they didn't match up at all. Watt wasn't completely healthy last game. And as we know, when Watt isn't 100%, the Steelers pass rush just isn't there. But
well, let me bring this up real quick. Dante, Watt is still injured. That groin is killing him by Pedro Almagor Jr. And he might not be completely healthy now, but that guy, I think he plays through it. I'm sorry. Keep on going.
I think he's closer than he was in that game. That game, he just knew how important he is, and he just went out there and tough through it. But he, you know, you could just see he was a shadow of his former self. But you was talking about Manning and how that the Steelers knew that if they, you know, changed the what they were showing him right before the snap, it could confuse Manning. Well, that's what teams have been doing to Roethlisberger all year. If you'll pay attention, they'll bring in safeties and linebackers down near the line because Ben likes to, you know, change the play and everything right before the snap. And then around 4 seconds left, they're diving out of there. Somebody's dropping back into the middle. And that's one of the reasons that, because Ben also doesn't have time. That's why he wants to get a read pre-snap, because he doesn't have time to stand back there. So that's really caused him fits. And the Chiefs did that a lot in that first game. So I'm sure there's going to be some new wrinkles from both teams. But that's what makes it compelling this time, and it does give the Steelers a shot if they can make the right adjustments.
And you know, it's funny. There's no Travis Kelce in that game, but Tyreek Hill is not. Tyreek Hill hurt his foot during warmups the other day, and so Claude Edwards-Helaire is not healthy. So it's going to be interesting. I brought up Kevin James's comment. He's not hurt. He got kicked in the nuts. So did he get kicked in the Watt family rubies? Because I didn't see that.
No, he got kneed.
Yeah,
I thought he jumped in the.
I thought he tweaked his groin.
No, he jumped in the air to try to block Huntley's pass, and as Huntley was going back, he brought his knee up, and Watt was spread eagle, and he kneed him right in the cojones.
Oh, that's Wow, that's crazy. I did not know that happened. And it's funny is when I'm watching the game, and a lot of us, it's really tough for us. We have to watch the game sometimes 2 times to be able to accurately see it, because I'm setting up podcasts, I'm setting up articles, I'm setting up all this to go immediately afterwards. And there's some times that we're learning from the live chat what really happened because there's some stuff we miss. And I tell you what, Dave and Jeff keep track of that a whole lot better than I do. I'm just like, I'm in the moment when and I do, you know what? I'm not a good multitasker. Ask Mrs. Bad. She'll tell you that I'm not very good at that. So it is going to be interesting. Yes, this team could definitely beat the Chiefs. Chiefs can blow out the Steelers too. But, gentlemen, I say $10,000 bet on the game. You cannot spend it on anything else. You can only have $10,000 to bet on this game. Are you going to bet against the Steelers when you're given 15 points?
It's hard.
Tony.
It's hard to pass up that kind of a point spread in the NFL. It's such a crazy, wacky league, and even when you're talking about the very best teams against the worst teams, and often it's a close game. So I would have to say I would take the Steelers in the points, and it would $10,000. It would be nice to have right now, but if you win that bet, I mean you're pretty much set for a long time. So I would have to take the Steelers in the points. That they only know how to win one way, and I think they know that, and that's to win ugly. So they're going to do whatever they can to make that a close game. And Shannon mentioned Big Ben's clutch gene this year. It's been better than ever. So if they can keep that game close to the fourth quarter, I mean, that's what you want if you're a Steeler fan. You want that game to come down to Ben Roethlisberger at the end. He might not be what he used to be, but he could be great. Whatever that saying is, that's what you want to see on Sunday night.
It doesn't have to be Mr. Right, but he's got to be Mr. Right now. Shannon.
There you
go. What was the question again?
I give you $10,000 and say you could only bet it on the game. You cannot go spend it on anything else.
I got distracted by our chat because somebody said that T.J. Watt merely tied the record. Forgetting that Strahan got a gift from Favre when he just laid down the ground and let him get the sack. Forgetting the fact that T.J. Watt missed 2 complete games and was far less than 100% in 2 other ones due to groin injuries. So really what he done, and also when you include pass rush success rate and everything else, he blew away Michael Strahan's season. We won't even go there, but that distracted me a little bit. But back to the point at hand.
Okay, wait, let me jump on that real quick. Let me jump in there real quick.
Mm-hmm.
This whole thing isn't decided yet. He can, first of all, I don't care. I was trying to tell my nephew, I was trying to tell my son, I was trying to tell everybody. I'm like, as long as you tie the record, you're a record holder. You don't have to be on an island to be a record holder.
Right.
So that's
also
he's a sack.
Also, in the game he also had a sack taken away, and I understand I understand the rules where the ball hit the center's behind and everything, and it was a bad snap. But not forgetting about the one where him and Hayward got the sack, but he had the sack, and the guy Huntley tried to jump cut out of the hold of Watt and went helmet to helmet into Hayward. Hayward didn't hit him with his helmet. He was getting ready to sack him, and Huntley jumped sideways into him, and they threw the penalty. So there was multiple opportunities where he would have easily broke that record. But
the NFL is going to look at everything, and I have a feeling that he gets credit somewhere. They're going to make a change, and the NFL has said maybe mid this week. I read it from a very good source. So this is something that they're actually going to be taking a look at. Doesn't matter to me. I don't care. You want to know who the sack king is right now? It's TJ Watt. There's another sack king. His name's Michael Strahan. I don't care. As long as you have it, it doesn't matter. You're champion. You're the champion of sacks for a single season, and that's amazing. Now, your other point, Shannon. I'm sorry.
No, I'm the one who brought that up. But if I had the $10,000 to wager, the Steelers could get blown out again. I mean, we've seen that with this team, but they know that it's possibly Ben's last game. I think everybody's going to be fired up and focused. And if it's close at the end, as Tony said, Ben being Mr. Clutch like he is, it would not shock me for him to definitely cover that 15-point spread. If not, lead him down the field for a game-winning opportunity.
I agree with you there too. Hey, I want to get back to the Michael Strahan thing. There's a lot of comments on this one. First of all, Jack Bauer, great name. I mean, I hope he's the Jack Bauer from 24. That's really awesome. I live in NYC. Strahan was a great player. No need to blank on him. You know what? And then somebody else says Strahan has an asterisk. That's Mark. His last sack was a fall down. I don't care how you get the record. TJ got some fall down sacks this year. Michael Strahan earned the record. I don't care that Brett Favre fell down. Shannon, I agree with you. I mean, thank you for bringing that up because it happened. All I'm saying is that there's room for two kings. And man, if you're going to share the podium with someone, I don't mind sharing it with Michael Strahan, right? Your name's forever on there. So,
yeah.
But I still think TJ might be standing alone by midweek, and so that could really happen. But here's the thing: all that matters is this game, and I can't wait. Now, I want to bring up something right now as we get ready to get on out of here. There's a game on right now, a very important game, and it's Georgia and Bama for it all. A lot of people hate Bama. I despise Bama. I despise Bama because I had a run-in with Nick Saban. Not face-to-face, but Nick Saban, and I'll tell you the story sometime, screwed me over when I worked for Enterprise Rent-A-Car. Absolutely screwed me over. So I can't stand this guy. However, if I am not going to tell you that Bama is not fantastic. And if it wasn't for Bama guys, this team, 3 Bama guys, the Steelers aren't in the playoffs. The first Bama guy is Mr. Josh Jacobs. That run last night was incredible. He had a great game. That's why the Raiders ended up winning that game. So thank you, Mr. Jacobs. Go Bama. I'm going to talk about another Bama guy. Najee Harris with one arm saved an interception and got a first down with one hand because his other elbow wasn't working. Najee was phenomenal. Mm-hmm. And the most important one on this list is probably, and people are going to laugh at me when I say this guy is underrated. Minkah Fitzpatrick is freaking underrated. Mm-hmm. Minkah Fitzpatrick is a man and one of the most important Steelers. And the way he popped Hollywood Brown yesterday to knock that ball loose, he doesn't do that. Steelers do not win. I love me some Minkah. So because of Minkah, because of Najee, because of Josh Jacobs, because of JC freaking Hassenauer, there's another one.
Woo!
Because of Hassenauer, he's an Alabama guy. Because of those guys, no disrespect, Hines Ward, but you know what? Roll Tide. I will say that just because of that, because I'm a Steeler fan and I love it. And last year, the NCAA championship game, I'm watching it, and everybody's like, man, I would love to have that Najee Harris. And they're like, he's never going to fall to the Steelers. He did. He's there. embrace it because this guy is a big part of the Steelers' future too.
Mm-hmm.
He is a man, and he is going to win a lot of games for this team. God bless him. And playing without an elbow, one hand, man, you've got my respect. So this hurts me to say. I've got some reflux going, but roll Tide. With that being said, man, I am walking on sunshine. Just call me Katrina, and these guys call them the waves because I'm feeling good. Don't it feel good? Yes. Hopefully, we are having another good hangover next week. Man, I feel like I just shotgunned some Mountain Dew because I'm feeling it. And this hour has made me feel even better. So I've got to say this. We've got another week of Steeler football. If you're not checking out BTSC audio, editorial, you're missing out on some great, great stuff. Thank you, Jacksonville, Duval. Thank you, Vegas, for having some balls and getting pissed off and doing it out of spite. And thank you, Steelers. Christopher Lynn Boswell, I love you. I got to tell you, boys, this is feeling good. I hope I'm this hyped next week, and we're talking about another ball game. But I love my Steelers. You love your Steelers. Doesn't matter how confident you are. You know there is a chance, and we believe in miracles. And that man, Al Michaels, is going to be talking. And as much as you hate Chris Collinsworth, he's going to be talking too, and hope we hear them talking again. For Tony Defeo, for Shannon White, my name is Bryan Anthony Davis. I am pumped. I need to go calm down. So, just when you think you've got all the answers, Tony Defeo.
We keep changing the questions.
Shannon White. Woo! We love you. Thank you for supporting us. Can't do these shows without you. Good night. I'll say it again. Go Steelers. Roll Tide. Can't believe I've said that.